haven't really been out that much lately.
Yeah. Well, that's always the tough thing, is knowing how to get out, when to get out. Of course, having friends to do it with is a nice thing to do as well.
Mm-hmm.
I hear you guys. Well, good to have everybody in the house. Would like to go into instructions. So here's the agenda for today. We'll look at your posting on instructions from chapter 27. I'll ask if you'd like to elaborate when we look at your comments. And after that, we'll go ahead and look at just two slides on, well, three slides actually, on how to write instructions and what the superstructure of instructions are. After coming out of the slides, we'll come back out and actually look at samples. And that's sort of the fun begins then. We'll look at how video instructions are good and when they don't work as well. So we'll look at examples all collectively around one moment, which is fixing a code on a radio, a car radio. Chose the particular topic because it happened to me, and it also is short, and therefore it allows us some comparative data so we can see through comparison and contrast what's working, what's not in the instructions. First things first, we've got to share a little bit of humor, so let's look at that. And then we can see here we've got a problem. Every night before food, once daily, to be taken 4 times a day, 3 times a day, every 3 times daily, take 1, take 2, take 3, 1 or 2. This was actually a script. That's pretty scary, right? I mean, I would think, how about this visual illusion? First, this seems really, a beautiful IKEA instruction, and then all of a sudden, if we look a little closer, we'll wonder here. Check out that 3-prong. Is it 3? Is it 2? Ah, the mysterious illusion of whether we've got 3 or 2 over here. All right, a little silly, but nonetheless. More seriously, if we go down, well, one more fun one, and then I'll get you one that's you would think seems more realistic. Do not attempt to install if drunk, pregnant, or both. Just in case you had to have both there. Do not eat antenna. Do not throw antenna at spouse. I think there had to be a little bit of somebody not quite catching the edits when that went out the door, because I think some tech writer had a little fun there. I think I can't. Then again, who knows? Maybe they were nipping at a bottle. I'm not sure what was going on there. All right, let's look at one more, because this one actually seems like it could happen. So this is often what happens with instructions, and that is the assumption, right? To extract data using web scraping with Python, you need to follow these basic steps. Find the URL that you want to scrape, inspect the page, should be the same verb tense, right? Same directive, imperative, verb. Inspect the page. Page should be lowercase, but small stuff here. Finding the data that you want to extract. Write the code. Wow, write the code. Could give us a couple sub-steps there, right, as to how to write the code. Run the code and extract the data, store the data in the required format. All right, a little bit of play to get us in. And indeed, just fun. All right, let's look at the thread here. This is from Isabella, and I know she's not with us today, but let's go ahead and sort of skim, because I think it's still worthy. So the first step, she said, is a superstructure that she found, and she found the directions and troubleshooting part especially helpful. The directions need to be clear, yes. They also need to be extremely obvious, and I think that's so good. I mean, extremely obvious as in the word means concretely what it means. There's no confusion. We don't use metaphors. We're not using analogies. We're not using words that the person with, excuse me, an average 8th grade education wouldn't know, right? So that's who generally, for years in America, give me one second here. In journalism, they would say that you should always write to somebody having an 8th grade education in America. So at a vocabulary level at that point. That sounds sometimes insulting, but it's just a way to make sure that things are done clearly. All right, so extremely obvious, using good vocabulary. Precision is the most important part of keeping the directions user-friendly and reader-oriented. Having fun today with my throat. Not sure what's going on there, but you guys can hang in there. All right, so if directions are convoluted or complicated, you'd feel overwhelmed, exactly. And this gets at the point of having too much to say. Sometimes more words don't help, especially with instructions. Lists and breaking up the steps in detail help prevent this. And I would say bullets as well, some hierarchical indicators like that, numbering and listing is helpful. And then the troubleshooting guide, she talks about the directions seeming obvious, but troubleshoot tips are less common, at least as she says in instructions she looks at. And if you get lost, the tips help you get back on track. So wonderful and helpful from Isabella to get us something to get us started here with the discussion. Let's go to one of yours if we can get here to it. And Carly, will, if you'd like, you can elaborate on this, but let's first take a moment and we'll skim it through and then give you the chance to kind of elaborate upon it. While there are many tips for writing reader-centered instructions offered in chapter 27, two stood out to me. The first is to make any potential safety hazards extremely obvious for the readers, so they notice them and take them into consideration before performing actions. If no warnings or precautions are given, the reader happens to get injured. Yes, exactly, liability. The second tip that you found, as we're down in here, to be useful is to include a lot of imagery and figures with the instructions. Vivid graphics, I think you meant images, but yes, and providing the reader with vivid graphics can successfully demonstrate where things are, how to perform certain steps, and what the expected results should be. Visualization can overall make the process a complete step-by-step procedure easier for the reader. Anything you'd like to add to that, Carly?
Just for me personally, I think it's easier to follow the instructions if the directions have pictures in there so you can see like firsthand what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a key of strength, right? Many of us would say that's something that they bring to the table for sure. Yeah, thank you. Let's go to just a couple more posts here and do encourage everyone to get to it. Addison found it pretty different than what we've seen. Many good things taken from the chapter. The superstructure was helpful. And we normally faced with pieces that require extensive and intricate introductions, and this is not the case, exactly. Though we're going to talk about it, because introductions for instructions can be, importantly, placing the document in the person's hand with a smile. And we'll talk about how most people don't feel like they want to smile when they see instructions. Either they feel they don't need them, or they feel that they're going to be a bother, or they feel they're not going to be able to follow them appropriately. So there's all that psychological weight, if you will, that goes into approaching them. So one of the problems exactly is that we can go too far. So definitely that. Visuals and photos and diagrams, and helping us be able to get to them better. All right. And Caroline, mentioning that keep in mind faults and patterns people have, that pointing out people will read and complete a step before reading the next one, oftentimes causing them to reread instructions. You know, and so flipping through the pages back and forth. We need to talk a lot about modularity, which is what I call this phenomenon, which is the fact that a lot of people do look at instructions as a have to and only a fail safe. So they only come to it when they need to. And I don't know if that's wrong. And that's the discussion we could have. Yeah, you've got to make the instructions concise and clear, and perhaps rethink the way you format it, right? For sure. Graphics and diagrams, identifying patterns that we tend to skim and not read, and helping us to effectively achieve the goal we intend for our readers to have, and avoiding angry customer calls. Yeah, exactly. Caroline, anything you want to riff on further?
No, I think I'm all good.
Yeah, I think it's well said. Yeah, so for sure, guys. I mean, one of the things that happens with instructions is that it has to deal with this kind of mood space that's created by some sense of ambivalence. So we have to provide easy directions for two types of readers. Ones that will go step by step. They'll take their eyes off the page, do the next step, then turn back to the instructions. So again, I go back and forth, and that usually they're fairly fastidious, but they're going back and forth. So that's a key thing to realize. And the second are the people that either they'll use it more as a fail-safe, they'll occasionally come to the instructions when their intuition fails them. And so these are the equivalent of people who might watch the video once and try to perform the task from memory as well. We do have the advantage, of course, with video now, and that's, of course, the mainstay of the course and what we're going to do. We'll look at that in a moment. But the goal, too, is to persuade people, most of whom dislike reading instructions or watching them, to read them or watch. And this doesn't seem intuitive sometimes to us. We might think there's no persuasion, but there is. We need to persuade them also to feel good about the services or products that you, your company or agency can provide to the person and others that the person might share with. So they can provide more products, more goods, more services. So definitely an interesting point to think about it as a form of persuasion. So we've got to answer 6 questions. Do I really have to read these instructions, right? Is there anything special I need to know to be able to use these instructions effectively? If I'm working with equipment, where are the parts I need to use? So obviously you've got the bed frame, and being able to lay out all the pieces effectively and know, of course, where they are. If you've got bolts and so on, knowing that you've got all the screws and bolts that you need before you start. And that's something I think a lot of us do. What materials, equipment, and tools do I need? So outside of the box, so to speak, the tools that I might need to bring in. Once I'm ready to start, what do I do? Something isn't working correctly, how do I fix it? We've got the troubleshoot question. And here we see the layout of these questions all together. We can see them, if you will, tucked into sections of superstructure. Again, superstructure, the word for major moves that are made, usually in this sequence. So the introduction here will encompass the 2 questions. What will the instructions help me do? And is there anything special I need to know to be able to do these instructions effectively? I like to add a 3rd point, and this comes from some outside reads, and that is that we're also giving a person the ability, we're giving them an opportunity to congratulate them. We're saying, hey, good for you, you bought the product, this is a good product. Sometimes you even want to think about possibly giving them a discount code or a QR code or some ability to feel that they're investing into the product, maybe a limited warranty that they can easily sign up through texting. That kind of congratulatory language can build a sense of ethos, a sense of reputation and character, where you're investing in the company and to the style, if you will, of the company as well. And so it can get a good vibe going between you as a company and the person reading. The description of the equipment, if I'm working with it, where are the parts I need? So that often is laid out early. One thing that's not mentioned here would be often the cautions, right? The warnings as well, that would come in play early. The list of materials and equipment needed, what materials, equipment, or tools do I need? Again, separate from what's in the box. The directions, once I'm ready to start, what exactly do I need to do? Step 1, step 2, step 3. The troubleshooting, something isn't working correctly, how do I fix it? We're obviously going to be in the workings with directions most closely, but it's really interesting to think about all these steps and think about ways that we can build in, cross circulation. So for example, between the directions and troubleshooting, is the troubleshooting a separate area, sort of a box out, side or end addendum, often using a box to kind of indicate it visually? Or is it part of the directions? If A doesn't work, try B, or skip to step 6. So using those references sometimes comes into play even within the directions. Okay, so we can see how the questions lay out here. Again, with the addendum that we'd add to the introduction, the idea of persuasion, and with the addendum that we would probably add a caution area. I would say the 3rd thing is the list of materials and equipment needed. You'd probably want to have some kind of visual representation there. Whenever we can use a picture, boy, 9 out of 10 times, that's a really, really good idea. Okay, let's look a little bit at the actual assignment here. Want to make sure we do that. So, yeah, one of the things that I like to think about, I like to sell as this unit, as the fun of it, is if you're good at math and if you like the sense of parsing things, this is your unit, because I personally love math for this reason. It's a way to logically be able to lay things out. So step one, step two, what, if you will, what smaller part is part of a larger part? And you have to think about that. That's the way the steps work. There's a all-encompassing logic, and then there's sequential logic, and there's sub points, that need to be spelled out into the steps. So thinking about language, how much language to use in this case, and making sure that you pick your commands very well so that they're clear. And most of all, being comprehensive, making sure you don't forget to do something. So let's go ahead and read this through, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. There's some famous examples of that. In the project, you'll learn how to write instructions. We will actually do that in class. But for the project of what you'll actually produce for the final product, you'll produce a how-to video. And these are two increasing forms of communication for any organization. Instructions are often thought of as bothersome. As we mentioned, do I really have to read these? And yet they're important. If nothing else, they're the fail-safe, the backup, what people might come to. And again, think about how upset you would be if a packaged piece of furniture arrives but does not contain instructions. We may not like instructions. We may push against them. We may periodically go to them as a fail-safe only, but we still want them to be there in case, just for that sense of order, direction. So given the ambivalence with which we read them, we need to think about making them not only clear, but persuasive. And we need to address the questions of what we've kind of talked about. Why should I bother? Is there a quick and easy way to do this? Is there anything special I need to use to know to use them effectively? And some of the questions we've already gone over here too. If I'm working with equipment, where is it? Where are the tools? And I'm ready to start. Exactly how do I do it? And then if something's wrong, how do I fix it? So for this assignment, you'll produce the micro tutorial that is less than 5 minutes long. For most of us, it is a fix or a simple part of a function, say for sewing the butterfly stitch. And for a lot of us, it will be a small project of how to make something, say a latte. All right, the deliverables are pretty simple here for the B-, the APA formatted cover page, the link to the video, your reflection, and then that gets you the B-. Then above that, simply adding a detailed storyboard, which will be part of our homework, but again, just a few more details to make sure that is well prepped. And then in your reflection essay, add a paragraph where you cite and thoroughly comment on a point from class. That will get you the B+. And then for the A-, just pick one of the following for an A-2 if you want the A. Help somebody else make their video in class and be able to document that. Post 3 discussion comments per discussion forum for this unit. So including the one we just had for chapter 27, go ahead and give some comments to other people. I know you weren't required to, but if you want the AA-, why not do it? It's pretty easy to get that. Find and catalog 5 excellent instruction videos. I am going to flex on that. I had somebody ask, hey, could we also look at a couple that are doozers? And I said, sure. You could find 3 excellent ones and 2 that are not good, and then share your analysis. Put together a handout possibly for us to share in class, or share in a video your analysis of them. If you have another modality you'd like to use, let me know. Meaning you don't want to go print or video, but you'd like a third idea, I'm open to that. Further research a point from the chapters assigned for this unit again, and surprise me, come up with a creative idea. All right, cool. I know you guys, most of you read it, I'm probably preaching to choir on that, but just wanted to make sure we've got the lay of the land. So when we think of instructions, one of the famous examples that's often used in middle school and high school is making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Has anybody ever done this? Anybody where you've had your teacher say, hey guys, put together instructions for the class on how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich? Anybody?
We did it during, I was an orientation leader. We did it during one of our orientation retreats, and we had we did like a personality test, and we had people grouped based on what their personality was, and then we kind of compared what different personalities said.
Yeah, tell us about what the actual exercise involves, and then what often goes wrong.
Well, we didn't do like the. I've seen demonstrations where they follow the instructions logically, and they'll they'll say like put peanut butter on the bread. And so someone will just grab a jar of peanut butter and just place it on a bread, because they're following the instructions logically. When we did it, I guess ours was a little bit more about showing the differences between personality types and how they make instructions. Like one group was the caring personality type, and they made sure to make exceptions for people with nut allergies. One group was the adventurous type, and they made this insane triple decker peanut butter sandwich, peanut butter and jelly sandwich and stuff.
Sounds like fun. Thanks for explaining the variation on it. I hadn't heard that. Yeah, guys. So what goes wrong is that, of course, we over anticipate that everyone will skip along in the same mindset we have. And the grace of doing a video is that oftentimes if you miss it verbally, you can see the person's actually taken out a knife and then put the knife in the jar and then scooped out the peanut butter. But in written instructions, of course, we don't have that. So sometimes we have to assume and make lots of assumptions. I love also how you brought in, the outside information. What if you're thinking for somebody that has a different situation, that wants it, if you will, a certain way? And we might think in general, right? A person that may not have high language skills, a person that uses language, even the English language, differently. Think of Australia, think of Great Britain, think of any international coverage through the instructions, and we'll look at that in an example here in a moment, even in the video mentioning that. If they in another country cannot access the information quite the same way, that needs to be sort of noted. So good, guys. All right, so let's get in. Let's do a little bit of fun here. Let's look at 3 examples. And what I want to look for here is what's working, what's not in these video instructions. And then we'll look at a couple samples overall, and we'll brainstorm ideas amongst ourselves and get out with that. So we'll come back to this, but let's
before we do that, are we going to be doing presentations today for Project 3?
Yeah, thanks for mentioning, Emily. I know we had mentioned last time we're going to do that at the end, so remind me at the very end. We'll have you share your presentation. Does that sound good?
Yep, and if you look in the chat, I believe a couple other people also have presentations.
Okay, cool. So what happened on that, guys, is I had a verbal on that, but I wasn't sure who was in town or in-house at first, and then of course promptly forgot to bring that up again, but we're going to get to it. So let's go ahead and do that. And thank you for bringing that up, Emily. Let's look at these 3. So let's talk about the scenario. So we've got a code. What happens, it will be explained here, but basically in your stereo system, you can't get access to it because your battery went dead in Honda. And that is purposely made so that people can't just to rip off your radio and use it. So you've got to reset it using a code. So let's look at what's working, what's not. And by comparing and contrasting a couple videos in an area where you plan to go ahead and post, it could be really helpful, because you might say, oh, geez, this one had information, the other one didn't, and this one sequenced it this way, the other guys didn't. So we're looking especially for variables, and as we cue into this, we'll come out as well looking at a slide of things to do, not to do. But just to give us a cue point as to what we might look for, obviously slides with text, good audio, lighting, whether it's fast or not, and then the comprehensiveness of the information being conveyed, possibly also concision. Let's go ahead and take a listen to this.
Today, I'm going to show you what to do when you get enter code on your factory stereo on a 2006 to 2011 Honda Civic. Usually this happens when you disconnect the battery or when the stereo is taken out of the car. So this is what the message looks like. It says enter code. Usually that's a 5-digit code that comes with the stereo, or it comes with the car. You can find the code in your owner's manual. It'll look something like, it's a little card, it looks something like this. It's that 5-digit code right there. Or sometimes if you look in the glove box, it's to the side right there. You see its number. So that number pertains to that code right there for the stereo. So again, my code is 43442. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna enter 4, which come to this button right here. So that's a 4. And then the next one is 3. So go to the number 3. Then 4. Then 4. Then your last digit is 2. So now that you input that, and you're pretty much ready to go. So just reset your stereo and the station, and then you're done.
All right, let's talk about it, guys. Patrick, what's working, what's not?
Sorry, one second. I had to unmute my thing. You know, I liked that he showed the actions of him doing it as opposed to just talking about it. That kind of helps take away some of the great, like if you don't know, if he just wrote it all out, you might not necessarily see what he was doing and know what to do. But he doesn't, did he say where he found his code? I can't remember.
He mentioned the card and or the dash,
okay.
the glove box.
Gotcha.
Yeah, he did kind of confuse what he said. He said it doesn't come with the car, and I think the text said, or it does come with the car, and then I think the caption said it doesn't come with the car.
Yeah.
There was a little confusion there for sure. Yeah, and as we'll see, there's another way to get the code, and he doesn't mention that.
Mm-hmm.
So interesting you said that. Yeah, anything else you wanted to say or add?
I don't think so.
Yeah, let's kind of bounce this around. Emily, any thoughts? Anything that you're seeing?
I like that he included text along with what he was saying. It was inclusive for people who can't hear, and it was also just more clear.
Mm-hmm. Okay, excellent. Let's see, who else is in the house? Carly?
Yeah, I was just about to say, what if you don't have your manual or you can't find it, or like if you need to go get one, he doesn't specifically say like where you can get one?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, legitimate. Maggie?
As someone who has a Honda and never knows what's going on with the audio system, even with the manual, I think that these are like super helpful to help me figure things out, because like they're just weird audio systems overall. Like I have to watch videos like at least once a month trying to figure something out with it. So
what worked for you in this case?
I think that he like went through things really well, like how to use like the instructions you have as well as adding to them, essentially. Like, because like, yeah.
Definitely went over. Anybody else? Any other comments?
I think it was good how he demonstrated and showed the noises that the system would make, like the initial beeping and then what it sounds like when it gets reset. Because otherwise, you know, if I was there, I'd like encounter that noise. I was like, oh no, what's going on? Is that a good noise? Is that a bad noise? You know?
Yeah.
So that helps to kind of like figure that out.
Yeah. It's a sense of confirmation, right? Yeah. Fantastic. So here we go. Let's recap. So we've got a good text slide to lead, and I would say that might be helpful too. And he does use captions. Other people have said also he's fairly slow in the pace, meaning he's not rushed when he's talking. It's fairly concise, right? We could say the whole thing's a minute 48. You could even get it less. I mean, minute 40. We can definitely see parts. We can hear that. Obviously, we had a problem with the caption there. It doesn't come with the car. It comes with the stereo. It's almost like he's correcting himself using the captions, which I thought was interesting. He could have probably reshot the video. So there we go. We can find that code there with the card. Kind of helpful that he took it out of the manual. In that sense, it might be packaged, if you will, with it. So that was interesting. And we can see it fairly well. well enough, and then does go to the glove compartment and does note that that's another spot to find it. Does miss a third option. And here, perhaps a little bit pedantically, but nonetheless, it gives us a satisfaction, like you can get here too. So by taking the time to kind of put one number in at a time, even though to me it felt a little slow, on the other hand, it might just give people the confidence that they can pace themselves one point at a time too, because you probably would pause as well entering those numbers to make sure you got it right. So all that's there, and notice how it was done fairly efficiently, and this little bit of playful ethos, don't mind the dirty fingernails, right? So that sense that this person's real, if you will. All right, let's go here. Let's look at a couple more. We're gonna just take this in again, just about a minute, so we get a sense of difference between the two. I wanted to run this quickly.
Hey, what's going on YouTube? I just wanted to do a quick video on how to take the code. I got a code message on my radio. I changed my battery, and this is what I get.
Charging initiated.
So apparently I did some research, and apparently I need a code for my radio. Now, I've been hearing that you can take out the radio, which I'm not going to do. I can take it to the dealer and pay probably $100 or more just to have it done. I'm not going to do that. And they say that the code is in here. I've looked in here. Inside my glove compartment, I've seen nothing. So I did a little bit of more research, and I ended up going to this website called radio dash navicode, I believe, .honda.com, and I got the code there. All you need is your VIN number, and then you need to give them your email address, provide an...
All right, good place to pause. Let's toss this one around, guys. Carolyn, why don't you start us out? What's working, maybe what's not?
Yeah. Well, I mean, nobody's perfect, but I feel like maybe you could have like practiced this one time through and then gone through it a little more smoothly the second time around, because it was a bit all over the place. And I know that if I was having this problem and I was super frustrated that I didn't have the code that I needed, the fact that it took them a minute and a half to tell you that you need your VIN number and you need to go to this website, like I would have wished that would have happened in the first like 20 seconds, but that's just me.
Yeah. So maybe just a little more of venting rather than delivering the information that a person would need. Yeah, and definitely not as fluid, right? Using, apparently this, apparently that. So a little bit of venting. I mean, definitely real space, but maybe too much.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks. Carly, thoughts?
I feel like he should have included some text, especially where he was saying the website that you should go to.
Yeah, definitely, right? Could have dropped that in easily and also put it in the description section of the post of this YouTube post. Yeah, good. Van, anything?
I thought the same thing. He should have listed the website there, would be helpful. But he sounded like he unsure himself, so I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, exactly. Didn't you hear that? He was like, dash, well.
Yeah, he was stuttering a little bit and pausing a lot. So.
Yeah, right. And you don't want to do that when you're giving instructions. You want to have a sense of movement. Yeah, so definitely some things were hanging out there. I mean, look how he kind of alluded to where the VIN number is found. He did this kind of flash over to the left and then flashed over back to the right, but never explicitly said, oh, by the way, you can sometimes find the VIN number right over in here, right up along the dash, sometimes in the door jamb, depending on the year and model make, but didn't mention that, right? Just sort of alluded to it. The interesting part, though, right? It's kind of like watching the mystery unfold. We're playing a little Sherlock Holmes. That you know, that opening up, oh, that glove compartment box doesn't get you the goods, right? Doesn't get it sometimes. So this whole idea of 3 different ways to get it, really interesting how some of them will mention it, some of them won't. And in the other video, we had the assumption that it was a sure deal. All right, let's do this one, and then we'll do one more. And I'm going to just take it from one point. We'll kind of scrub it forward right here. It's going to be a little loud at first with the sound here. So
Now we're inside the vehicle, and I'm going to walk you through the process, and then I'm going to do the process. That way you guys can do this yourself. So right now we're inside the vehicle. The stereo is locked. I'm going to put the key in the ignition. I'm going to turn it to the on position. I'm going to hit the number 6 and number 1 at the same time, 6, 1, and then turn the power on the stereo. And a code is going to appear on the actual screen of the stereo. That's going to be the serial number for the code. We're going to write that code down, and then we're going to write down the VIN number of the actual vehicle, and then we're going to go to the computer and we're going to input it on the website. And then this website is going to give us the code. You guys ready? All right, let's do this. All right, so here we are. You guys can see it's locked. So we're going to hit 6, 1, and then turn it on, okay? So it's off. You turn the car on right there. So we're going to hit 6, 1, enter. There it goes. That's the serial number right there. Now we're going to input that number into the website. So let me go show you guys the website. Okay, so here we are in the computer. That is the website right there. I'm also going to put a link to it on the description, but it is radio-navicode.honda.com. Here it is. It's going to give you the instructions right here on the first page. You need your vehicle VIN number, which we already have, and your device serial number, which we already got from the procedures I just showed you. So now we're going to go to get codes, and we're going to fill out this form right here. The VIN number, the zip code, my phone number, email address, and the serial number. This one is if you have navigation system on your Honda or not. Then we're going to hit submit, and it's going to give us the code. So let me fill out this information real quick. All right, so here we are. All the information is filled out. Now we're just going to hit submit. Boom. And there it goes. Right there. 2009 Honda Civic LX. That is my code right there. Of course, VIN number and the serial number. So there it goes. That simple. That is. It took us less than 5 minutes to do. Keep in mind, this code.
all right, so sake of time, let's just talk through real quickly some things that worked, 1 or 2 things that work, maybe 1 or 2 things that don't. Emily?
I thought it was very thorough, but I liked too that he did the cut to videos. That way we didn't have to watch him type in information that didn't actually pertain to our specific situation, but we still understood what to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Maggie? Maggie, what are your thoughts?
Sorry, I was having some difficulty with my mic.
Okay.
I think I got a little confused when he was like doing the 6 and 1 thing when he originally showed his face. I feel like if you walk that through like while doing the action the first time instead of doing it afterwards, it would have flowed better and also taken less time out of the video.
Because he describes it visually with his fingers, looking at the camera at first, and then we actually see him do it. Yeah, for sure. Nice. Patrick, anything?
I appreciated the cuts. I think it's nice that he kind of just transitioned to save some time. I think he might have benefited from using a like a screen capture tool when he was doing the computer part, just because it was a little shaky holding the phone on the computer. And if you use a screen capture, I mean, it's clear. Yeah. And I agree. I don't know that he needed the part in the beginning where the camera was facing himself. That felt a little unnecessary, I guess. You can still have some of that information, but I think he might have been better suited if he was like showing the car and showing the process a little bit.
Anybody else?
I agree with Patrick that the beginning was a little shaky, but at the same time, I really appreciated him kind of giving you the rundown of all the steps. beforehand, so you're not watching the video and waiting for, okay, what the heck are we supposed to do next? I appreciated that he led with, we're going to do this, and then we're going to end up going to the computer and that sort of thing.
Exactly. Yeah, for sure. And he does develop an ethos, right? He does develop a little bit of chatting with you, and perhaps he's known among, you know, a certain crew that he's got a lot of subscribers. I was noting that, and he's got, you know, 246,000 views of this particular video. So a lot of people evidently found it useful, or at least tripped this way, or he was able to, through search engine optimization, get people in here. But anyway, it happened. Probably some good stuff there for sure. All right, let's look at the last one, guys. And again, just a minute, and then we'll be out.
So you turn on the radio and it just says enter code. This means that your stereo is in anti-theft mode, which means it needs a special code to unlock it before you can listen to music again. The first thing to do to unlock your radio is, with the key in the accessory position, hold 1, 6, and power. The screen comes on and it gives you the serial number for your stereo. Grab a piece of paper and write this down. You'll need it in a couple of minutes. All right, so we take the serial number we wrote down, we go to our computer or our phone, and we go to radio-navicode.honda.com. We'll include a link in the description. Take your VIN, which you can find on the door jamb or on the windshield in the driver's side of your car. Enter that with the serial number, your zip code, email address. If you're not in the US, you can use a zip code like 12345 90210. If you're in Canada, your VIN might not work. It might tell you it's a non-US VIN. We'll include a link to a website in the description where you can go and get a US VIN, which you can enter, and that'll work. Once you're done filling out the form, you'll get a code. We'll go back to the car and enter that to unlock the radio. Back in the car, turn on the stereo. It's asking for the code. We're going to take the first code that we got from the Honda website, which was 15366. There we go.
All right, Kira, what are you seeing that's working? What would you say maybe is not working?
Well, it's pretty concise. I thought that it gives information for people who are outside of the US with dealing with the zip code. I don't know, it seems pretty good.
Yeah.
Could be a bit fast paced though. Maybe.
Yep. Yeah. Let's get anybody in. Let's just pile in whoever wants to come in. Anybody?
I liked how steady the camera work was. And I like that he, and the other guy did this too, but I like that they said they had the code in the comments. And this one was like, you know, it was pretty quick and pretty concise and pretty straight to the point. Yeah.
Anybody else? Caroline, anything you saw in this one?
I mean, like everybody else was saying, I think that it was concise. It was very clear with the images. Love the screen grab of the website page. Like I think Carly and Patrick mentioned in the last video that it was kind of lacking in. I think he did that well.
Yeah, excellent. Got the song kind of tugging through. And with Kira, it felt just a little fast, but otherwise, look at the information that was given for sure. We had the international, got the sort of the cover here, if you will, of the font introducing the video, the title, if you will, and then the angle's good and steady. It's a good high quality shot. Pretty straightforward as to what you need to do, and also explaining what the problem is and referencing it. Possibly could have done a cutaway, you know, maybe a tighter close-up shot if we wanted to get more technical. One thing that was interesting that's not present is he did mention the options. Like, it would be nice to save yourself time if you did have the code in your, you know, your glove box, right? And be able to grab it or get it from the manual if you had the card that came with the stereo that was in that sort of packet of information. So maybe that was missing slightly. Yeah. But overall, you can see this one has a lot, brings things together in many ways that were not present in the others. Let's kind of quickly run through some things here. So in terms of good video instructions, clean audio, non-shaky video, good lighting, simple and concise. We can definitely see the idea of just keeping it short. Sharing the steps and tools. I'm with Carolyn. I kind of like that preview slightly. I think that's a really nice thing to do and think through. If short, mention the time, meaning we're going to, in the next 5 minutes, be able to do that. Use graphic slides for steps, meaning that if I can scrub through the whole video and actually see the graphic slide pop up, that can be really cool. You know, step 1, step 2, step 3. We'll see that in a moment. We'll look at two sample videos that have been posted by other students. Let me get Maggie back in here if I can. Oh, it's so hard for me to be able to get to her without, there we go. All right. Yeah, here we go. Just had to get her back in the house here. Using music at select points, maybe not all the way through. Using cutaways, often close-ups, different angles. So cutaways are often what's called B-roll as well. That's when we have other supplementary video footage that we use to overlay on top of what the main script is, the main narration. So that could often be a really cool tool. Sell by stating clearly what problem you're solving. A lot of these videos did that well. Like if you have this situation, you know, and also, you know, specking one more time. Some people felt this was redundant. I'm kind of both ways with it. I mean, you know, technically when people Googled it, they were looking for, you know, what kind of Honda, you know, 2001, 2006. But I don't know if you lose a whole lot, you know, what, 10 seconds, you know, if you've got this problem with the 2001 to 2006, so people feel reassured they're in the right place with the right car, you know, if you will, getting the right instructions. Good camera angles, possibly use effects such as speeding up the footage, possibly show the end product first. You know, this is where you're going to be, especially if we're doing, and we'll see in a moment, like lattes and macchiatos and things like that, showing that final product. So what doesn't work when it's not directive, it's shaky. Let's just add to not directive the idea of lacking command, lacking a sense of firmness and comprehension, and in any way saying I'm not sure or could be. There can be no could be's. It has to be, you know, this is the way to do it. So not sharing the complete information definitely is one here. Too many speech gap fillers like anyway, apparently. Lacking a sense of energy. Audio captions are too fast, or the audio itself is too fast. So either way, not using enough visual data. You know, we can use tools for sure. And if you go through a screencast, as Patrick was saying, or doing part of your video through a screencast, you can use all kinds of marks, arrows, and tools to indicate visual data. So that's a really cool thing to possibly think about. All right, not trying to be comprehensive, but that definitely, you know, can give us a starting point as we look for video for next time that we might want to work with and post up for everybody to see, to say, hey, this is at least an example of something that works, I think, pretty well. So look for that. Let's look at, with that in mind, we'll look at briefly at this one. I do know you guys have to share a little bit. I'm keeping my eye on the time here, but we'll go ahead and just play the first part of this one if I can get it to load up. And tell me how this is working.
John Katko voted to make billionaires rich.
Besides John Katko and Dana Balter. How many of these ads have we seen? But here they are. I wish there was a better forum to get information across, but yes. What do you think, guys? Emily?
I liked it a lot. I thought it was aesthetically pleasing. I wish that they would have said how long to start for, or like once sugar's dissolved, something along.
So maybe more explicit captions at least. Yeah, let's just bounce around a little bit. I don't know. Kira, you want to come in on this one?
My video was lagging a bit, so I couldn't really follow along. So
Okay, no problem. Caroline?
Excuse me, sorry. I think, yeah, I think it was aesthetically pleasing, but also would have been nice to include, you know, some words, or whether it be like on the screen or them talking. Like for example, in this shot that we're paused on, you can tell, or I could tell that there was a scale brought into it, but you can't even see the full scale. So someone might think it's like a hot plate or something like that. I kind of thought that for a second. I wasn't sure exactly what it was. So.
Yeah, totally. So a little bit more explicitness is what I'm hearing. Maggie, anything else to add?
I like how soothing the video is.
Yes. Yeah.
It's kind of nice if you're like learning how to do something. It's just calming.
Yeah. Some other people have mentioned the same thing. It's got sort of foodie feel to it, right? Yeah. I mean, somebody just said that would be something just to watch, even if you weren't making it. Just the sounds were really explicit. I was enjoying it for that. But maybe, you know, it could be a little more explicit. Like in this particular scene, this goes on for like 15, 20 seconds. And some said, wow, I don't know if we needed that much of that either. So thinking about the cutaways, but look at the high quality of the video. Look at the, obviously the audio quality too. Somebody said, I don't know what the word is, the term for using therapy with sounds, having common sounds as a way to kind of soothe, if you will. But somebody mentioned that in the other class. I thought that was a good idea too. Good point. Okay, guys, so that's that. I need to run table to get you guys out. So I'm just going to show you an excerpt here. We'll do a little more of this next time. I'm just going to scrub it for you. But what Kelsey really did nicely is she was explaining everything. This is a student from last year. And we'll just run the first part of it. Let me get back to her. See where she was. Matcha, sorry. Yeah, so she's going to be really explicit and starting us in.
Hi, I'm Kelsey, and today I'm going to be teaching you how to juggle. All you're going to need are 2 to 3 objects of equal weight. So this could be tennis balls, rolled up socks, or anything else that you have lying around. And whenever you're ready, let's get started.
So again, what's the part list, right? What equipment's needed?
So a common mistake that I see people make is they start with 3 balls right away instead of 2. So today I'll be starting with 2, 1 in each hand. I'll be tossing one left to right and right to left in a crisscross or X-shaped pattern. So here you see me tossing left to right, then right to left, then catching in my right, and then catching in my left. I like to follow a pattern of toss, toss, catch, catch, as you'll see me here doing tossing from my right to my left, then tossing from my left to my right, catching in my left, and then catching in my right. A little tip that I like to show people is that as soon as the ball that you toss reaches its maximum height and then begins to come down, you'll see me toss the next ball, then catch, and then catch in the other hand.
Okay, sake of time, let's just go over a few things. I'll just sort of mention them. What works is the explicitness. Definitely there's a script. Notice also that she, in this case, reversed it. She actually matches her narration to the video. So she shot the video and then made sure she paced to what was being shown. That was pretty cool. Obviously the background audio of actually hearing the slowed down speech or the slowed down, falling of and catching of the, I should say catching of the balls could have been, scrubbed out. The lighting could have been a little bit better, things like that possibly. But there's a lot of good things. Maybe the use of captions, maybe a step 1, step 2 slide if you will, that comes before steps, possibly. Let's look at this one only very briefly at the beginning. So again, and then we'll be out, guys.
Hi there, I'm Paulina, and I'll be showing you how to install LVP flooring. Follow along with this video, and I'll pop in to offer some tips.
Something gold. Oh, something gold. Oh, something.
Start laying the first flooring planks in the corner of the room with the tongue side, or the one with the extended lip, facing toward you. Here, I start by placing 1/4-inch floor spacers everywhere the plank touched the walls. These create an expansion gap and should be used along the entire perimeter of the room, spaced about 1 foot apart. If your corner begins with an irregular cut, as it does here around the door frame, first mark your desired cut with a straight edge to make sure the plank fits. Use your box cutter then to carefully score the mark, and then use the tongue and groove pliers to detach the pieces. Because this example begins in a door jamb, I'm joining the planks after making any necessary cuts. To do this, angle the planks alongside up about 20 degrees and make sure the plank grooves align. Then lower the plank until the joint closes. If there's a small gap, use a tapping block and rubber mallet to tap the planks tight. If you're starting from a new corner, you can ignore this step for now and simply lay the full plank down without any cuts or joints. After the first piece is all set, lay the rest of the row by joining the plank's short side tongues together.
Okay, so very explicit, right? Good angles right here. Obviously the step, being able to scrub through the video and be able to say, oh, here's step 4. That's a pretty nice tool there. The audio is good. Video quality is good. One thing she said, this is really cool. So even using the slide to do this, just having one thing pop in at a time, you can do it that way. Using screenshot, again, some kind of screenshot video, if you will, could possibly do the same for us. But just simply popping one thing in on the visual at a time is a pretty cool idea. So don't know if she actually laid it out in video or she did it some other way. She took, was able to get, I think that's pretty much what I think happened was with screenshot. But one thing she did mention is it was a little hard working with this editing program. So one of the things to watch out for is that, for sure. All right, we need to get to some of your presentations. Emily, want to start with you. Who else do we have presenting today, guys? Amongst you all.
If we have time, I can go. Otherwise, I can wait till next class too.
Okay. Emily and Patrick, anyone else? All right, cool. Maggie, let's see what you got over here. Sorry, sometimes it won't show up real easy for me when I come out of the room. So let me just be able to view the chat again here. Sorry, guys. So, okay, cool, Maggie. So let's do this. I think what we'll do is we'll do one, and then Maggie and Patrick, I think we'll give you the floor next time, because that way everybody we won't have to worry about time. We'll allow some interaction with Emily, so Emily doesn't feel pressured, if you will. So Emily, whenever you're ready, feel free. Take over the screen.
Okay. Also, just a little thing. I chipped my tooth yesterday, so if I whistle at all, I'm sorry. I'm going to try not to, but we'll see what happens. Today, I will be giving a presentation on the differences in communication styles between cisgenders in the workplace. Males and females in business can be equal in almost every way, including experience, expertise, education, intelligence, and job title. However, there tends to be an area that differs greatly, and that's in how they communicate. Before we start, I would like to say that these are generalizations and do not apply to every single person or in every situation. I'm not suggesting all females fit into one category or all males into another. I'm also not suggesting one style is better than the other. I am simply reporting on what I found during my research on the topic. This research is based on patterns observed as well as documented by psychological and scientific research. For my presentation today, I will be using the terms female and male rather than man and woman. I am using female and male as indicators of cisgenders because that is what the research and data that I refer to is based off of. If you don't know, cisgender applies to a person who identifies with the sex assigned at birth. Also, despite it being 2020, I will be using blue to define male characteristics and pink to define female characteristics, just to provide a clear visual between the two. The differences in communication styles are often categorized by the terms report and rapport. Report is largely used by males. It is direct and typically does not include personal stories or emotion. Those that communicate in this fashion typically dominate conversations and speak for longer periods of time. Males tend to demonstrate their knowledge about a subject and will give general information about that topic. Topics discussed are those of public matters, such as news, sports, or events. Very rarely is personal information included. On the other hand, rapport, which tends to be the communication style associated with females, involves personal feelings and past experiences. This communication involves indirect, tactful language and the frequent use of courtesy words. Oftentimes, rapport communicators process information externally and problem solve out loud. Females tend to accomplish tasks by building relationships first. They are also more concerned with everyone contributing to the conversation. Topics of discussion are mostly personal, such as relationships, feelings, and family. It can also be said that males tend to monologue while females dialogue. These differences can be linked to the motivation each cisgender has for communicating. When males communicate, they are more concerned with conveying information and establishing status. If stories are told, the motivation is generally competition to display power or assert dominance. Females communicate with the goals of connecting and building relationships. Just as verbal communication styles are different, males and females tend to gravitate towards different methods in nonverbal communication. In general, females tend to condense their bodies into as compact a space as possible. This involves tucking in elbows, crossing legs, and keeping any materials in stacked piles. Females also tend to display more animated facial expressions. They smile more and make more eye contact. Males, on the other hand, tend to expand into physical space and normally display a more relaxed body posture. Nonverbal cues is a specific situation in which understanding these differences between styles is very important. When females are listening, they show it. They nod, smile, and make eye contact. Males tend to show active listening much less, and because of this, it can be perceived by their female coworkers or employees that they aren't listening or are being dismissive. By understanding that males tend to display these cues much less, females are able to recognize that they are being heard, even if he may not be obviously demonstrating it. So conflict occurs in the workplace, and each gender handles these situations differently. When addressing a specific person, males are again more direct, using accusatory phrases such as "you didn't do it," while females are more likely to use an indirect method, such as "why didn't you do it?" When addressing a conflict overall, females delve into the details to express concern, participate, or verify their assumptions. It's the female's way of connecting and building the relationship. Males, on the other hand, cut to the chase. The road to get there matters much less than the destination. Males only want enough details to get the big picture. Females are more collaborative and appreciate discussion with input from all parties involved. Males routinely challenge and expect to be challenged. There have been clear differences, and it is important to understand these differences in order to maximize effective communication. By understanding differences, problems that may arise due to the lack of good communication may be prevented. Understanding these divergent communication methods can help to manage confrontation, aid in conflict resolution, relieve stress and anxiety, build stronger relationships, and meet our needs as humans for social interactions. If miscommunication occurs in the workplace, not only can it create a negative behavior, but it may also result in low productivity. In understanding difference in communication, The roles that gender play in conflicts can be understood and possibly lead to quicker resolution. For instance, males tend to be direct and as a result can sometimes be perceived as dominating or overconfident or blunt, which can be seen as offensive in some cases. Strong communication skills can also facilitate goal achievement and improve work performance, especially in customer service and management positions. An examples of job performance is when taking on a new project or task. Females tend to ask a lot of questions before beginning work and often validate data before actually starting. Males simply roll up their sleeves and dive in. Problems can then arise because a female may assume since the male didn't ask any questions, he must know enough to complete the job, but this isn't always the case. Overall, understanding the inherent communication differences between males and females will help you enhance your ability to communicate successfully with others and to hear, interpret, and comprehend others' messages without judgment. And then there are my sources and my picture sources.
Fantastic, Emily. Thank you. Let's get some quick feedback. Caroline, anything?
I thought that was really well done. The presentation was very clear. I love the use of pictures, especially with a widely, not accepted, but like a widely known show like The Office. I think across like all different ages and everything, most people know what The Office is and have maybe seen an episode or two at the very least. So I thought it was really well done. Good job.
Yeah. Let's get some others in. I don't know, Maggie.
I thought it was like really helpful to just discuss different communication styles and how that presents itself within a workplace. It's like definitely something that is still that a lot of people still struggle with within work. So it was a very nice presentation.
Mm-hmm. Patrick?
I thought she did a really good job. I thought it was really interesting to go through and kind of, figure out which of these things may or may not apply to me. And I thought she spoke really well. What she said, she wasn't just reading off the slide. Everything she said was supplementing what was on the slide, and she spoke at a good pace. And she didn't say like I'm doing right now. But yeah, I thought it was really good.
Yeah, definitely. Carly?
I think she included a lot of interesting information, and she also talked about a lot of things that like I've never personally thought about myself, and shared a lot of interesting differences between male and females in the workplace.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, thanks, Emily, for making a space for sure. Van, you want to get in? Kira? Van?
I thought it was really precise and educational almost. It's really interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, isn't it? So many different things pop out for perhaps each of us in idiosyncratic ways, but so interesting. I thought for me, the body language really struck me like, oh, that's interesting. People might sprawl out versus perhaps fold inward. Thought that was really interesting.
I just want to say I definitely noticed that in my classes.
Yeah.
Like that's a big thing between the different genders.
Yeah. Yeah. It struck me when you said it. I was like, oh my God, that's interesting. And even, I think you mentioned stacks. Is that right? Stacks of things around?
Yeah, so if like a female has paper, she tends to keep them like right in front of her and stacked and organized, whereas males kind of take up the space.
Yeah, yeah. Interesting. So cool. Wow. Great information. Way to bring us to a close. That was really, really helpful. Appreciate that, Emily. Thank you. Let's go out with this. We're at 9:20, and I just want to say to you guys, keep going. For next time, post up a good video and why, and then post up your idea, and then give each other some feedback. I highly recommend the easy nab, if you will, for the AA minus is to give each other 3 comments. Just post them up and collect them too onto a separate document that you can then paste into your final document for Project 4. This could be a lot of fun. Think about it and think small, okay? I think that's important. Try to come up with something that's a small fix or a small idea. Other people in the past have done, like I said, macchiato, how to make it, butterfly stitch and sewing. So sometimes a small move. Sometimes instructions for kids, like tying your shoes. So thinking sometimes outside of your age and stage can be interesting too. All right, guys, have a great one. Thank you so much. I'll be in the room for a moment here after if anybody has a question. Thanks, Emily. That was awesome. Appreciate it.
Have a great day.
Yeah,
See
take
ya.
care. All right.